Hi guys, today's video is another get ready with me video using products that I already have in my collection, although the foundation, it's a reformulated one, so that one is more new to me. I've done my skincare for the morning, the last step being sunscreen, and I do have that listed in the description box below because I have quite a few people asking me which one that I use. So I haven't got on any primer yet. The primer that I'm going to use today this is fairly new. This is the Dior Forever. This is the Velvet Veil. This is the one more geared to combination oily skin, and I use this quite a lot. There's a couple of other primers that I use as well, but the bottle's already about down to there, so I'm definitely getting through this, and when I do get through it, I will be buying another one. I think it's a really lovely primer. It doesn't dry down to a flat matte or anything like that, but it gives a really beautiful base for my foundation, and I've used it with a lot of foundations now and it seems to work with all of them. If I have a foundation that is extra glowy and probably not geared towards oily skin so much, then I tend to use something like the Tom Ford Traceless Soft Matte Primer, or I've even got the Milk, I think it's the Hydro Grip one, and I use that sometimes too. It really just depends what type of foundation that I'm going to be using. And the foundation that I'm trialing at the moment, it was reformulated last year. It's the Chanel Ultra Le Tint one, so I've got a little sample of it. I think this is gorgeous, and I do prefer it over the other one because I do have the original and I think the new formula is better. But I asked them to give me a sample because I normally get the shade B30 in Chanel, and I thought I would give the shade BD31 a try. Now it initially looks, because this is geared more towards neutral, towards warm skin tone, and although when I first put it on, so I'll pop some on, looks a little bit yellow, but once I've blended it all in, I think it looks quite good. So I'm going to use the BK Beauty. This is the 101 brush. This is a great foundation if you have oily skin like I do, but this also works with combination skin as well. And I have seen a couple of videos where people with dry skin have used it and they seem to really like it. So it's just one of those foundations. There are a few around, and it's just one of those ones that seems to work for all skin types. So I'm just going to put a little bit more on it. It seems a lot, but not a lot comes out of this little bottle. So I'm definitely going to buy the full size. It really just depends which shade I'm going to get, either the B30 or this one, the BD31. This is about the third time that I've tried this new formulation. I think it wears really well. I think it looks really beautiful on the skin. It has more of a light medium finish that is definitely buildable. Now when you get the full size and you use a pump, you tend to use a bit more product. So again, I'm dipping into the sample and I'm just going to put it around the areas that I just want it built up a little bit more. So I think that this gives a really beautiful finish, and just the excess that's on my brush, I just take over my eyelids and I pop some just underneath my eyes as well. And then for concealer, I'm going to use the Chanel, the Sublimage. I had been using, because I got a sample, and I think this is in 32. The full size one I've got in 30. This is really lovely, and it's probably just a little bit brightening, but it does look beautiful. But I also love the shade in 32, so I think I'm going to be picking up 32 as well. This is such a gorgeous concealer. When this concealer first came out, I did a dedicated video on it, and it was a first impression video, and when I put it on, I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And it's one of those concealers that If you tend to put on a little bit too much, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't start to look thick or cakey or anything like that. I'm a little bit guilty sometimes of putting on too much concealer to begin with. But if you do, like I was saying, it doesn't tend to look thick or cakey like some concealers can. This is just beautiful. I'm going to tap it out first using a BK Beauty brush. This is the Angie Hot and Flashy, and this is the A506. So I'll just concentrate in the inner corner and then just tap it out. I can always add a little bit more if I want to, but I think this will probably be enough. This concealer is really hydrating, and it's because of the skincare ingredients in it. And although initially you may think that this is quite an expensive concealer, I think it's about 90 or 95 US. When I reviewed, I think it was the new Tom Ford concealer, I did a price comparison for gram, and when you do it gram for gram, the Sublimage actually comes out really well priced because there's, I think it's about 10 grams in here, so you do get a lot for your money. And with this, I do wash it after each time that I've used it. And what I use is that I have Cinema Secrets for my brushes. And I put some Cinema Secrets on a microfiber cloth that I have in front of me. And at the moment I've got this pink one here. And so I just dab some of the Cinema Secrets on here, and then I wipe this over, and then it's clean for the next time that I go to use it. And that's how I wash my brushes in between deep cleaning my makeup brushes. That's also how I clean my brushes. I pour a little bit of this on the cloth, and then I just wipe my brushes over very, very gently, and it works really, really well, because with makeup brushes, I think if you follow the instructions in either this cap or put in something else, and then even if you only put like the tip of your brush into the liquid, then I imagine it's going to soak up, and it could soak up into the ferrule and loosen the brushes. So that's why I put some of this on a microfiber cloth and then just wipe the brushes. And then, like I always do, I just do one final press just with my fingers. I do this with all my concealers, just for that final finish. And before I set the concealer, I do my eyebrows first, and then I also put on some eyeshadow primer as well. So now I'm just going to do my eyebrows using my favorite Chanel eyebrow pencil. Then just going to pop some eyeshadow primer on. This is the MAC Paint Pot, and this is in the shade Painterly. I've heard really good things about the NARS one, but it's always sold out here in New Zealand. They sell it at Mecca here. And every time I look, I remember to look, because I do want to try it out. It's always out of stock, but one day I will get my hands on the NARS one and give that a go. And then I'm just going to set under my eyes. This is the Westman Atelier Vital Press Skincare Powder, and this is gorgeous for under the eyes. This is in the shade Creme. And then for setting powder, I'm going to use the Hourglass. This is the Veil Translucent Setting Powder. This is probably the best packaging out of all the powders that I've got, because what it has inside, those of you that haven't tried it, it has a little H in the middle with the holes for the powder to come out. And with a lot of powders, when you put on the lid and you give it a shake to get some powder out, usually a lot more comes out from shaking it than you need. You just got to be a little bit extra careful. But with this, you can give it quite a good shake. And just on the lid in here and in here, you get just enough to powder your face without getting excess amount. I really like this powder. I've used a lot of it. This is getting to be about, it's probably about 2 years old. So I'm determined to use it this year and to use it up. But once I have used it up, I will buy another one, because it's a really beautiful powder. I would put it up there with, probably with my oily skin, for having a slightly mattifying effect. I'd probably put it up there with the Chanel loose powder one. Both are just really, really beautiful. So I'm just going to use the BK Beauty. This is the 103. And just swirl it in there, taking up all the powder. And then just lightly just tap it in over my face. I don't need a whole lot of powder since this foundation, even though it's not like a flat matte, this Chanel one, but I still need a little bit of powder to set it down because it's autumn here in New Zealand, and the way the weather has been for the last couple of weeks, you wouldn't think so. Today is actually quite humid, and normally by this time of the year we have a fireplace, but we also have air conditioning unit that you can use as a heat pump as well. And at the beginning of April we usually have the heat pump going in the evenings just to take the chill off, but we haven't had to use it once yet, and it's not far off May and we haven't even used the heat pump. So I imagine the weather's going to turn at some stage, but at the moment, I mean, it's been lovely, but it's really unseasonal and quite humid. So that's another reason why I wanted to use a foundation today that is a bit more suited towards oily skin, because I've also got to go out and I just don't want to use a foundation that I have to fuss around with too much. And I know with this one, it's just going to look really, really gorgeous all day. And for bronzer, I'm going to use the Victoria Beckham one. This is in 02. I also have the one in 03, but I really like both shades. This one I bought myself. The other one that's in 03, that was gifted. And at some stage, when time permits, I am going to do a video with a near full face of Victoria Beckham products. I think the bronzers are just beautiful. They are a gorgeous formula. I'm just using, this is the Sonia G, this is the Cle de Peau brush, and I love it for bronzers. I also like the one of hers, this, I think it's called the Jumbo Bronzer. It's this one here. The Cle de Peau probably picks up a little bit more product than this one does. So if you've got a bronzer and you want to be a little bit more light-handed, this would be the brush to use. And then with this shade, I don't really need to go as easy. So I'm just using the Cle de Peau. Beautiful brushes. And just diffuse the product really, really beautifully. And for eyeshadow today, I had a look through my collection and I've reviewed about 3 of these palettes so far. These are the Lancome palettes and they have the 5 shadows in them. Today I'm going to use this one. This is Bronze Absolu. I also have, I think it's Drama Denim might be the other one, and the third one I've got, I think it was more of nude shades. I think that these eyeshadows are really underrated. They are absolutely beautiful. They have gorgeous pigment. They blend beautifully on the eye, and they also have really beautiful color stories. Now this one, I had to have a bit of a look around, but in America, this one is still available, and I will link it for you below if you're interested. First of all, I'm just going to do, I'm not going to talk about it too much, the colour story, but of course you've got the bronze and the beautiful greens in there as well, some browns, really, really beautiful. But I'm just going to swatch this just quickly on my arm, just to show you how beautifully pigmented it is. So it's just really, really gorgeous. It just lays down product beautifully. I think they are a really lovely formula. You can just see with one swatch how pigmented they are. Just gorgeous. So these go on so easily. They feel really smooth. And they usually have a range. There's some mattes, satin. I think this one could be a satin, or these two might be mattes. And then we have more of a metallic shade here. It's a beautiful, like a khaki green, and it's got a little gold sparkle in it. This one here is more of a bronze, and this one here is more of a neutral, but really, really beautiful. So I'm going to grab Sonia G. I'm going to take the Classic Crease, and I'm going to start off with the shade here, This one seems to be, this is a satin. So I'll start off with this and just take it all over the lid. I also find with these shadows that they don't tend to emphasize my texture on my eyes either. And I also find that they last really well. Now I do wear eyeshadow primer, and the main reason that I use an eyeshadow primer is because I have oily skin, so I also have oily lids as well. So I use a primer with all of my shadows. I'm going to take my favorite, rephr 14, and we'll go into the next shade here, and just going to deepen up the crease. But they blend just beautifully, these eyeshadows. I think if Lancome updated their packaging and perhaps made them like a slightly bit more weightier, I think that they would find a new customer base for them, because the colour stories that they have and the formula are just absolutely beautiful. I'm going to take the Sonia G, this is a soft shader, and I'm going to go into this beautiful shade here, and I'm going to put that all over my lid. I'm going to go back to the 14, go into this shade here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of this in the outer corner. I'm going to take the rephr number 3, I'm just going to stay with the shade, use this my lower lash line, and I've just wiped down the rephr 3. I'm going to go back into this shade here, and I'm just going to put a little bit in the corner and just run some through here as well. Just go in with the flat definer with this shade here, and I'm just going to put a little bit in here just to lighten it up just a little bit. And then with the darkest shade here, I'm going to use this as an eyeliner for my upper lash line. And then also with that darker shade, I'm just going to take the Sonia G, the pencil one, and just put a little bit of that just to deepen it up, just on the very, very outer corner. And then for mascara, I'm going to use the new Guerlain one. This was released last year, and I only bought this for the first time about a week ago, and I've used it quite a lot. I think this wears really well. I think that this also gives quite a lot of volume to the lashes as well. Those of you that have watched my other videos know that one of my favorites, or it really is my favorite, that's the Chanel Le Volume one. But what I find when I try out mascaras, I try and give them a really decent go, because what I find is that you can get used to the brush shape as well, and that's why you can get very comfortable with the mascara that you enjoy. And then when you pick up a new one and has a different shape brush like this one does, it can take a little bit of time just to get used to it. But the formula of this is really, really good. As I said, I think it gives really good volume, and I don't find that it transfers or flakes throughout the day either. So before I put on my blush today, I'm first going to put over my cheeks. This is the new by Terry Brightening CC Luminizer. I love this, and I'm going to get a backup of it. It is just gorgeous. It gives the most subtle luminosity. It goes on beautifully, and it is just a really, really flattering shade. And you just click it out. I did a dedicated video on this, so you can just click it and you can dab it on your cheeks using the brush. I tend to get the product that's on the brush and just place it over my cheeks. So I use this different ways. You could even use this all over your face if you want to, underneath a foundation. Or like I am now, you can pop it underneath the blush. Or the other thing that I do is put your blush on and then just use this as a really beautiful highlight. It's not like a disco ball, and that's not what it's supposed to be about. It's not a highlight, it's a luminizer. So it just gives this really beautiful finish on the skin and that really gorgeous luminosity. And I don't find that it disturbs my makeup underneath either. So I'm just going to just do a couple more clicks and then just put the same on the other side. So I've been reaching for this a lot, just when I've been wearing my makeup on days that haven't been doing videos. And this luminizer is also very forgiving as well. So if you put on too much, it wouldn't matter. It doesn't start to look strange or anything like that. And I very, very rarely, if ever, put highlight down my nose. But I do with this product because it's just so subtle and so beautiful. I just think it gives that something. And I also tend to pop it just up here as well. And this is something I hardly ever do either. But it really is beautiful. It's set down now. It doesn't feel sticky or tacky in any way. It is just really, really gorgeous. They came out with, by Terry came out with a couple of liquid blushes last year as well in this type of packaging. There is a pink one and there's more of a bronzy one. Both are really beautiful. I use the pink one a lot. It's really, really gorgeous. For blush today, I'm going to use a Cle de Peau one. This is in shade number 3. And I'm going to use a rephr number 24 brush. This is one of the brushes that they kindly gifted me not too long ago. So I'm going to use this brush to pop it on. So I'll just swirl it around in the blush. I'll go on the other cheek as well. I don't want to have it too bright. This is really such a beautiful colour. And a few months ago I did buy, it was my first Cle de Peau blush. So this is my second one, cream blush. And I just couldn't get over how beautiful the formula was. There's just something about these blushes that give just such a beautiful, beautiful look to your skin. So I'm going to go in with the luminizer again. There's a little bit more still on the blush. And I'm just going to put a little bit more over here just to give a little bit more luminosity just on my cheekbone. And for lipstick, I'm going to use a Chanel one, the Rouge Allure Velvet Matte. This is shade number 195. But everything that I've put on my face today, I will have listed and linked in the description box below. I'm also going to pop a gloss over the top as well. And then just pop some of the Rouge Cocoa Gloss on top. And for perfume today, I've reached for the Chanel number 5. This is the Allure. And I've also got this in a body spray as well. I think this is a really gorgeous perfume. And it's just that little bit lighter than that original number 5. It's really, really lovely. So here is the finished look, and I think altogether it looks really, really lovely. I think the shade of the foundation, the BD31, instead of the B30 that I normally use, I think it works really well on my skin. What do you think? I'm not too sure. I think that the B30 works too, but I like the look of the B31. I'm still going to use the rest of the sample that I've got to finally make up my mind, and when I do, I will buy the full size of that Chanel Le Tint, the Ultra, because it is a beautiful foundation, and I do love the reformulated one that they've given me in this sample. The formula is just gorgeous, and I think it gives a really beautiful finish on the skin. The Lancome eyeshadow palettes As I was saying before, I think these are really underrated. I think they are beautiful. They have gorgeous pigment. They blend out beautifully. They look gorgeous on the eyes. They have 2 or 3 different finishes in these palettes, and I think they are really, really beautiful. I just think that perhaps Lancome, it's more of a luxury brand. It would be good if they just updated their packaging, but the formula itself, gorgeous. And this is such a beautiful color story, and I do enjoy palettes where I can use the deeper shade as an eyeliner and don't have to reach for a separate eyeliner. Seriously underrated, really beautiful eyeshadows. I think the shade of this Cle de Peau, the number 3, is absolutely beautiful. And as I was saying, there is just something about their blushes that give the most beautiful finish to the skin. I just think they're absolutely gorgeous. And paired with this by Terry Luminizer, what a beautiful, beautiful combination. As I said, I've been reaching for this a lot, either underneath the blush like I did today, or just dab a little bit on top of your cheekbones just for that very subtle luminosity. Really, really beautiful product, and I am going to buy it back up. These are limited edition, so I'm going to get an order very, very soon. And I also really like the combination of the 195 and the gloss together. I think together it looks really, really pretty. So that's it for today's video. I would love it if you gave it a like and subscribed, and I will see you next time. Bye.